Hello everyone, so this is a quick demo video on this week's assignment, which is going to be separating your subject matter from the background. So I think this is the most common things that people do, erasing out the background and then just grabbing the subject matter and then dropping into a different setting. So let's get right in. So make sure that your photo is on the separate layer. So sometimes if you just load up your photo, by the way, so for this project you can use any kind of photo. You can grab one from the Google, you can use your own, but I suggest that you use your own because it's just more fun. So if you don't have one, I'm sure you have some cool photo that you can work with. So but if you don't want to use your own photo, you can always go to Google and then search an image like this, but make sure that the image is high quality, meaning that it's big. The resolution has to be at least somewhat big, like 2000, at least 2000 on the longer side. Okay, so once you grab the high resolution photo, let's get started. So there are a couple ways that you can erase the background. And I wouldn't say a couple, I would say there's at least tens of different ways of doing this. But what I found most effective is just good old, using your mouse to cutting out entire thing. So I'm gonna show you a few tricks that I use to erase the background. And yeah, so let's get started. So make sure that your image is loaded in the Photoshop, and you're gonna have to put this layer, convert this background layer into a separate layer. So to do that, just double click and it's gonna prompt this this guy right here. Just hit OK, and I'm gonna create another layer just by clicking this, and I'm gonna put this underneath this layer. And whenever I'm like erasing the background, I like to have a background color that is really alien to the surroundings. So what color, if you had to choose one color that you don't see in this scene, what would that be? Well, I'll say color red, right? Because we don't see anything red, something like this. So I'm gonna grab red. I'm gonna grab the pure red, and I'm just gonna drop that into this layer, not this layer, and then just hit OK. But we're not gonna see anything because we just dropped paint bucket tool. We just dropped that red behind on the layer that is behind of this layer. So if I hide this layer, you will see this nice, pure, almost dangerous looking red. So here, if I use the eraser tool and start erasing, I just erased the layer one. Make sure to select the layer that you want to erase. We're gonna start see this kind of a background through this layer. So one things that you can try is that you can try using the magic eraser tool and then just play around. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it kind of is telling the computer, the Photoshop, to kind of separate the subject matter from the background. So sometimes it really works well, but if subject is in like a complicated background, it's not gonna work very well. You see all that? And if your subject matter is the subject matter and the color of the scene is similar, it's gonna the magic eraser tool is gonna bleed into this surface, because computer cannot tell if this is if this is background or this is the foreground, because the color value is very similar. So just by looking at it, you can kind of grab the places that you can use this background eraser tool. So I'll say somewhere right over here and somewhere right over here. So just by playing around with the tolerance, you can kind of see how much you can grab with the this magic eraser tool. So if I click 5, it's gonna grab this much. If I crank up to 15, it's gonna grab a little bit more. 32 is gonna grab a little bit more. But if you want to crank it to 255, which is the maximum value you can erase, it's gonna erase everything, because it's pretty much grabbing all the colors using the reference point that you click. So I'm just gonna play around with 32. 32 is kind of a safe number that I go with, and I can kind of tell that there's not really similar the color here and there. So I think the Photoshop will do a great job just separating the background from the subject matter. And here obviously I won't be able to use 32 because I feel like right over there is too similar. So if I click right there, it's gonna blend into it. We don't want that, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. And I'm just gonna start clicking here and there, see if it works. So here it kind of bleeds into it, so I'm gonna lower the tolerance a little bit to 15 and click it. Now I think that's much better. Same goes for here, and I think I can use 32 over here, so tolerance 32. It's not too bad. Here, yeah, that's dangerous. If I do that, it's gonna bleed in, go into the subject matter. So here and there. This I'm gonna do manually. So there, okay, and there, maybe there. Not too bad. Between the legs, okay. All right, so we just by using the background eraser tool, we were able to kind of roughly separate our subject matter from the background. But here, I mean, obviously we don't want to see all this, so we're gonna change back to the eraser tool. And I'm gonna use the hardest brush for this, and I'm just gonna crank up the size of the eraser, and then I'm just gonna start cleaning it up. And when you're doing this, excuse me, make sure that your opacity is 100% so that you're completely erasing. And I'm just gonna clean it up here and there. You see why I use the color red as a background? If you have like a color white instead, it'll be kind of hard to tell, especially when you get to somewhere here. But if you have a color red, you instantly see where it didn't get erased. So yeah, just gonna erase this here and there just to make it clean and nice. And while I'm there, I'm just gonna erase this out as well, so we don't have to worry about it later. That's all that. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. So some people, you might ask, how do you zoom in like that? So what you do is you hold down the Control and Alt key together. If you're using Mac, I think it's Command and Option, and you just use your mouse cursor to zoom in and zoom back out. Another thing you can do is go to Window and go to Navigator. Here you'll be able to kind of like move it around and zoom and then pan, and things like that. So I actually like to have my navigator always on top of right corner. And make it a little big like this so that I can kind of like zoom back in and out. So I'm gonna, oh yeah, I don't want that. So I'm just gonna clean up this little boogers here and there. This was my full-time job when I was in college, actually. I work for the company who sells like baby shoes on the catalog, and whenever a photographer takes a lot of picture of the product and then send it to me, I'll just do all this processing. So yeah, so you should be able to erase all this out. I don't say all, but some, most of them. But here and there, in this little special attention, you see obviously right over here, because just we won't be able to erase this out using the background eraser tool. So how do we erase that? Is there some magic tool that you can use to erase or separate the background from the foreground just somehow magically with the one click? The answer is no, of course not. The technology is not that impressive. Let me just tell you. And even if there is one, I wouldn't trust it because it's not very reliable. So most reliable way you can do is just good old erasing up by your hand one by one. But here what you can do is, we talked about how if you hold down one point and then hold down the shift and then click the next point, we create this kind of a straight line. We're going to use this technique to just kind of carve this out. So I'm gonna click right here, hold down shift, keep holding down the shift, and oh yeah, oh, and I'm keep holding down the shift, let go of the shift, and hold down the shift, click again. I don't like this new Photoshop thingy where you hold down and then do this. It's kind of like move it too dramatically. and keep holding down the shift to kind of create this kind of a straight line, just like how I'll show you here. Click here, hold down the shift, click here, hold down the shift, click there, hold down the shift, click there, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click. Wasn't too bad, right? Click here, hold down shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, and so on. So I don't say there's a perfect shape, but still this is very crisp and clean cut compared to this kind of a all these boogers that is created by the Magic Eraser tool. So actually, if I need to use this for kind of a commercial use, I like to erase my background using, I like to erase the background just using this technique, because I can have much better control and it's always reliable. I mean, it depends on my condition, but if I have enough caffeine, I'm always reliable. So let's just erase that out. Here, there as well. And here I'm gonna make it clean. By doing so, here it's gonna, I'm using the shift key so that I can move around faster. If you were to not use the hold down key and then just kind of freehand this, I mean, if you can do it, good for you, you have really steady hand. But with this and the mouse, computer mouse, it's not very intuitive, it's not very ergonomic either. So I tend to use a lot of shift key whenever I do this kind of thing. So by holding down the shift, I can really move fast like this. Yeah. And I'm gonna work with these shoes. So yeah, I'm gonna like, am I doing it right? I don't think so. I think the shoes kind of looks like this. Sometimes you kind of have to guess. So that's why if you want to be a good designer, you also have to be a good drawer. But some people disagree with that. But I believe in the traditional training of all design and not design, drawing and design and stuff like that. But some graphic designers think that nah, drawing is not required and blah blah blah. No, I don't agree with that. You know, drawing is like such a fundamental skill when it comes to composing your composition and all that stuff. And even if you're graphic design, yes, you're not going to be drawing or anything like that, but still you're creating this visual composition. So why say that? That doesn't make sense. But that's enough of my ranting. But okay, so let's take a look at here. Obviously we can't use the background eraser tool because otherwise it's gonna bleed into these white lines of his shirt. So we're gonna use the same technique. Hold down shift and then just connecting those lines. I haven't let the shift key go yet. I'm keep holding down the shift right now. And yeah, click here one again, hold down the shift and then just follow this line. But from here, since the background, the subject matter, the color is, there's a clear difference, I'm gonna give the background eraser tool one more chance. And here it's not the same case, so let's start erasing out. Sometimes it kind of gets discontinued like that, so if that's the case, you're gonna have to start a new point and then hold down the shift and keep on moving. Okay, so let's try the Magic Eraser tool now. It still kind of goes to that, you know, this to this shirts, so we can lower the tolerance a little bit. That worked. Legally, not that well. And this hair is working, I'll say. I mean, it's not perfect, but it is still working. So here I'm gonna use 32. There we go. That's much crisp. That's too much. Here, that I can't. Here. That's not too bad. Alright, so we see that some parts that you might have problem because this white area and this arm is kind of a similar in color and value wise, so we're gonna have to manually do that. Here I'm gonna make it a little bit cleaner as well. And here I'm gonna lower my brush size a little bit so that I can get into tighter corners like this. Don't worry about the tight corners like that. I'm gonna go over that soon. Downshift. Down the shift and just connecting the lines. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit because I don't want to see any of this kind of a the blues that comes from the background. And here things are kind of like sharp, so I'm just gonna make it smooth like that and erase this out, that out, kinda all neat. Okay, so let's talk about the tight corners that we want to erase. So here I could really make my brush small and then start getting to it. So for this one, let's just do that, you know, that'll be easier. So I can make my brush size really small and then just kind of erase this out like that. So that's not bad. I'm here as well. I'm just gonna make it. I don't want to see that blue on the edges. Here, make it a little bit, clean it up. I mean, I could spend a whole day just make this perfect, but now we're not after that. But here I'm gonna show you another way you can do. So we can use lasso tool. So let's go over here and right click and make sure that you click the second one, polygonal lasso tool. So what this does is if you click one here and click next, it's gonna create this kind of a thin line. So we're just gonna follow the edge of the subject matter, something like this, like that, and then finish up by connecting those the ending point and the starting point, and it's gonna grab this area if you do that. And we're gonna bring up the eraser tool, pump it up like this, a really big brush size, and just one click, and boom, there we go. So there's another way you can grab like a really tight corner. And yeah, so it looks good. So we're gonna drop this photo into different settings. So I'm gonna drop this into like a Vegas theme. So what could that be? Let's look for a picture that is kind of a similar to, I wouldn't say similar like when it comes to like a lighting wise. So that's a bright sunny day. And also I'm gonna go to tools, size large, so that I get like a really high definition picture. And yeah, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna copy this and go to the Photoshop, drop it in there. That's a little too small. Underneath here, I'm gonna go Control T to resize this. I'm sure that you guys know how to do that by now. And just kind of resize it like this. Enter, and I'm gonna move this subject. I'll make this subject a little bit bigger as well. Oh yeah. Generate something like this. And yeah, so that's how you can separate your subject matter from the background and then drop it into something different. So what I did was, by creating another layer underneath this subject matter, the thing that we just separated from background, and I just copy and pasted the image that we got from Google, and then I used the transform tool to rescale this background image, and yeah, so that is it. So that is how you can separate your subject matter from background, erase the background down, and then drop it into the new setting. So for this assignment, I want you to explore your own, idea. You can use any type of photo that you want. So it can be yourself, or you can get it from the Google, whatever you want. But make sure and then upload the original picture, and then upload the Photoshop version, so that you'll be uploading 2 images for this assignment. And make sure to save it as JPEG, not a PSD file. So go to File, Save As, and you can always click JPEG here and save. And it's gonna ask this kind of the JPEG option. 8 is completely fine, but if you want to make it really high definition, you can do like 12, but it's just gonna get really large, the file size is. So that is it, and if you have any questions, just let me know, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video.